Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And we're starting off 2023, well, a little bit slower than I was expecting, but now things are really kicking into high gear, and this effectively covers the majority of January, so we'll see where it goes. But here we go. Let's get on the pulse. So before we go any further, if you would like to like and subscribe for these compilation videos, I would be extremely grateful. Again, it's going to be kind of tough to tell. I'm probably going to cram about 8 albums per episode into these, so we'll hope where it goes from here. Also, be sure to share these around. These never get the level of distribution outside the fan base than you would like, even though I still make them just to make sure, because there are some people who do prefer a longer episodes put together. But now on to the matter at hand. We got 8 projects on the docket. Let's start off with from Iravu, A Fate Worse Than Home. I haven't covered any black metal yet in 2023, so how about this one-man atmospheric black and extreme metal act out of Malaysia with his full-length debut? Comparisons to Mare Cognitum and Spectral Lore aside, with the cleaner, more spacious production, the tremolo shredding balanced out with some borderline thrash, the insane solos and some pulse-pounding blast beats, there's also a greater focus on distant, haunted ambience over the 5 songs, but never feeling overlong. Hell, at some points it almost feels short. And the writing is just cutting. An allegorical space story purposefully intended for marginalized audiences of fighting to be heard and for acceptance against malevolent powers at home before being exiled into a bleak, uncaring expanse. I could nitpick about more low-end punch and texture, give the melodic leads a little more flair, but still, this was striking and potent, really almost heartbreaking. Please check it out. Great stuff. From Swiss Army Wife, Medium Gnarly. Okay, debut album from this Portland group, straddling lines between emo, cleaner side of indie rock, and a smattering of math rock, running just under 20 minutes. And it's pretty good. It's not revolutionary, very beholden to its influences, but it's creative and melodic, and it's got some solid intensity, even if you wish some earlier songs felt fleshed out. But the construction does work thematically, claustrophobic in its sharply painted spaces and relationships, always undercutting any creative sense of security for themselves or others, deflecting a lot of existential terror at the larger world and internal crises with sarcasm and a lyrical texture you don't really hear in the production, but they also know it's an irony that will not save them in the end, and they want to share some of that raw reality to whoever could listen. So okay, well constructed, good foundation, good formula for the debut, just really good stuff. Check this out. From Margo Price, Strays. So I noted my, let's call them contentious thoughts on Margo Price when I reviewed her 2020 album. A potent singer-songwriter live, hampered by underweight writing and some really frustrating production. But hey, maybe getting weirder this time around and... oh, come on. How are we 4 albums in, working with Father John Misty's producer for some more robust arrangements, and the keys are still this weedy and ugly, plus the vocal mixing inconsistent at best to smothering at worst? It's just distracting from the overall faux psychedelic southern rock atmosphere. And while the tired bitterness can linger in the lyrics, when Margo Price gets away from more murky bad relationships or character portraits like on Lydia and County Road, they reflect a more interesting, even dream country sound, but this still feels underwritten and underpowered. There's a detached burial of any real edge to it, so yeah, it's an improvement, it's at least decent, but this should be better. From Ice Spice, I was not sure what to expect here. The buzz around Ice Spice has been mixed and kind of weird, but hip-hop Twitter tends to hate women regardless, and this was just a 6-song EP around 13 minutes. It would at least be quick to get through, and okay, this isn't really good, but it's not nearly as bad as some will make it out to be, mostly because of the garbage bass mixing over some poorly produced, tuneless drill beats and a phoned-in Lil TJ verse. Those are not Ice Spice's fault, and her flows are pretty decent, but that's pretty much the most I can say, because on top of being kind of monotone, Ice Spice has very little that's interesting or clever in her bars. A lot of stock brand name flexing, dull sex bars, and mocking the bitches. I've heard hundreds of rappers on the come up with this formula. Most of them don't last. This feels like the limit of Ice Spice's one idea. I know it's not for me, but I'd still probably say skip it. From Maneskin, Rush. I should not be as exasperated with this as I am. I wasn't impressed with Maneskin from the start when they broke out. I had rock bottom expectations for this. But what's frustrating is that the seeds of a trashy but fun glam rock record are here, but the potential feels squandered. The bass lines can be legit, there's a couple good hooks and riffs, but why pair them with so many sour, minor key guitar lines and synths where nobody sounds like they're having any fun? And there's no edge to this. It's not nearly as sexy as it thinks it is. The production feels sterile, and without that filth or texture, an overlong and pretty one-note album runs together pretty fast. Couple that with increasingly generic and nihilistic preening and some frankly embarrassing ballads and cuts like Cool Kids, it weirdly reminds me of Anthem of a Peaceful Army by Greta Van Fleet, an overhyped throwback that just kind of feels like cosplay. They should have stuck to the Eurovision bubble. Skip it. From Ava Max, Diamonds and Dance Floors. Look, it's easy for me to root for Ava Max. She makes a lot of deliberate throwbacks to the pulsating electropop of the late 2000s, even the late 90s, complete with Circuit producing every song here. And with the mastering cleaned up considerably and less reliance on obvious melodic samples, this is more streamlined and focused, a lot of crisp, tight bangers. But paradoxically, it feels safer. Fewer big swings and hooks or conceptual experiments. And if you're gonna make this sort of bombastic pop, you kinda need that added flair. Otherwise, we got synth pop cuts that can match the album filler from early Lady Gaga or especially Kylie Minogue, but not their best, especially in establishing more unique personality for Ava Max. I don't know, it raises her floor, but only barely her B-lister ceiling. It's more consistent, not exactly better. Now for me, Take Weapons, One of Us, Cold as Ice, Dancing's Done. It's still good, but the rest are hit and miss. From Sam Smith, Gloria. Okay, after Unholy, I knew I would have to hear this. That song is such a disaster that I wondered what the hell could follow it. And thus I'm happy that Gloria shows more of Sam Smith's potential than ever, and also feels compromised by obligations to the mainstream pop labels. Ironically, Unholy showcases Gloria's stylistic juxtaposition in dance, pop, and gospel. It could have been a new Like a Prayer, but also its main problem is feeling too short and removing Sam Smith from driving their own narrative. Pull out Jesse Reyes' overprocessed vocals or Kim Petras from everything, and Sam Smith has their most lush and soulful production and some of their best ever grooves. And when Sam Smith delves into the angst of their messy relationship with layers of historical queer subtext, yeah, it's a bit basic, but they can sell it. Look, I can tell when the transgressive ideas were slashed in the editing bay. This is good, but it should have been so much better. From Lil Yachty, let's start here. Look, I'm not surprised at all that Lil Yachty finally took his eclectic melodies in a new direction, embracing the gooey psychedelia of late period Flaming Lips or Tame Impala. And there is this humid texture dripping with the loose funk grooves from the live instrumentation. Credit to the indie producing ringers, Mac DeMarco, Alex G, and Magdalena Bay as co-writers, and a slew of alternative R&B guests. Hell, Yachty's auto-tuned lonely warble, it kind of works for me, with themes of wandering alienation, drug abuse, and yearning love. But once you get past the novelty of the genre shift, the sound isn't really that original, and some of the compositions and lyrics feel undercooked. I mean, Lil Boat was more challenging to the status quo than this. So yeah, atmosphere is impressive. I actually kind of buy Lil Yachty in this lane, but the undulating goop of this mix feels patchy, overlong, and undercomposed. It's more vibes than songs. Take it or leave it. Alrighty then, thank you all so much for watching. Again, if you'd like to like and subscribe, I would be extremely grateful. I would recommend keeping an eye out for the shorts because again, that's predominantly where I'm doing a lot of the album reviews unless I have way more to say. You might be surprised by some of these, but ultimately I don't have a lot to say with some of them. They're just very much exactly what you would expect. Even this big surprises like Lil Yachty, what happens? Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. If you guys want to get involved in the scheduling process or help add albums to said schedule or just argue with me directly on Discord or support the channel, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated, tough times, I understand, I'll be okay, but options available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching On the Pulse on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.